Now that I've had a little bit of time to think about it, and I've managed to re-watch the debate to see if there was anything that I missed, I want to give my thoughts on the debate between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump that occurred yesterday. Now, I think by watching this debate and seeing some of the reaction by Trump fans to it, I've come to the conclusion that fans of Trump are living in a fantasy land. They are not living on this plane of existence, or in this realm of reality. They're somewhere else. I don't know where the fuck their heads are at, so allow me to explain. Some Trump fans said after this debate, "Yes, he got her, he slammed her, he crushed her, he annihilated her. We're gonna have a celebration. This is fantastic. Trump fucking kicked her ass." And I think from any rational perspective, that's not what occurred. And the reason that that's not rational is because Trump doesn't look to the rest of the world, to many of the people who live in America, the way that you think that he looks. He actually looks different. How does he look? He looks like a clown. He looks like a bozo. He looks like a joke. Now, when I watched the debate the first time, it seemed to me that Hillary was laughing a lot and had this smug expression because when she looked across to him, she just sees this fucking clown. That this guy is just like a joke. It's really hard to take him seriously. And he says such goofy shit.
Donald Trump. Last few days he's opened up... You're laughing again.
I'm sorry, I can't help it.
He's opening up a new line of attack on you. Here it is.
Oh, dear. A new one, huh?
She'll do a couple of minutes in Iowa, meaning a short period of time. And then she goes home. You don't see her for 5-6 days. She goes home. She goes to sleep. I'm telling you. She doesn't have the strength. She doesn't have the stamina.
Oh, goodness gracious.
I guess you don't agree.
Well, who can agree with anything he says that is, subject to 1 second of fact-checking? Look, if he gets the nomination, I will be more than happy to campaign against him.
And he's just like blethering inanely. She can't help but laugh. She can't help but smile because she's thinking in the back of her mind, I've got this presidency thing down. I've fucking got this because this is my competition. This fucking clown, this joke is... And she was probably trying not to burst out laughing the entire debate because I feel like if I'd been her, I just would have just broken down cackling at just how absurd he is as a figure.
I want to build the wall. We need the wall. The Border Patrol, ICE, they all want the wall. We stop the drugs. We shore up the border. One of my first acts will be to get all of the drug lords, all of the bad ones. We have some bad people in this country that have to go out. We're going to get them out. We're going to secure the border. And once the border is secured, at a later date, we'll make a determination as to the rest. But we have some bad hombres here, and we're going to get them out.
Mr. Trump, thank you. Same question to you, Secretary Clinton.
Now, the thing people don't seem to realize is there's a big difference between the policies and what we think these people are actually going to do when they get in power, and the dynamics of a presidential race. And I think that's where a lot of these people just go off the preservation into fantasy land. When the world, and when many people in America see Donald Trump saying, wrong, wrong.
Went after a disabled reporter, mocked and mimicked him on...
Wrong.
Written by a nice reporter. Now the poor guy, you got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember. He's going like, I don't remember. Oh, maybe that's what I said. This was 14 years ago. They didn't do a retraction.
Wrong.
Google Donald Trump Iraq, and you will see the dozens of sources which verify that he was for the invasion of Iraq.
Wrong.
And he was...
Just one look, that's all it took, yeah. Just one look, that's all it took, yeah. Just one look, and I felt so I'm in love.
Sad.
What's happened, big league?
Big league. Believe me.
As will Donald's, assuming he can't figure out how to get out of it. But what we want to do is to replenish the Social Security Trust Fund.
Nasty woman. We're going to have jobs. We're going to bring the jobs back from China.
China. You take China.
China. I love them. China. I have to have my China. China, because China.
We're going to have so much jobs.
And we're knocking the taxes of corporations and small businesses down to 15%. And when they bring their money back in, the tax is not going to be so high that they can't do it because it makes no economic sense. We are going to have a dynamic, an unbelievably dynamic economy. It's going to be an amazing, beautiful thing to watch. And we're going to bring our jobs back from China.
We're going to have tremendous growth. And these sentences, which are disconnected, and these non sequiturs.
But when you're a conservative Republican, they try, oh, do they do a number? That's why I always thought of, went to Wharton, was a good student. Went there, did this, built a... You know, I have to give my credentials all the time because we're at a little disadvantage. But you look at the nuclear deal, the thing that really bothers me, it would have been so easy, and it's not as important as these lives are. Nuclear is so powerful. My uncle explained that to me many, many years ago, the power, and that was 35 years ago. He would explain the power of what's going to happen, and he was right. Who would have thought? But when you look at what's going on with the 4 prisoners, now it used to be 3, now it's 4. But when it was 3...
Not answering the questions properly. Like, for example, at some point Chris Wallace said...
Mr. Trump, at the last debate, you said your talk about grabbing women was just that, talk, and that you'd never actually done it. And since then, as we all know, 9 women have come forward and said that you either groped them or kissed them without their consent.
Lots of women have come forward and said that. That's in the news, so it's a fair question to ask. And he just goes like, well, no one has more respect for women than me. ISIS. I'd like to see her take on ISIS.
They get their 10 minutes of fame, but they were all totally, it was all fiction. It was lies and it was fiction.
A few moments later.
What isn't fictionalized are her emails. She's lied hundreds of times to the people, to Congress, and to the FBI. And I'd love to talk about other things.
People just see that like... Clown! This guy is just a muppet. He's not even like... It's impossible to take him fucking seriously. But Trump fans see this guy through rose-colored glasses. They're not in touch with what is actually going on in this election. Now, I can give some better details about this to make it easier for you to see what I'm saying. First, quickly, a lot of people are talking about WikiLeaks and the Podesta emails. And that's another problem that Trump fans have. They assume that other people are as clued in to the significance of the Podesta emails and of WikiLeaks to the extent that when Trump just rambles on about it, that the average voter out there, or the average viewer, the average person who is seeing this event occur is going to be like, oh, WikiLeaks, yep. Oh, Podesta emails, got it, nailed it, Trump. Wow, you know what, Trump looks really good, maybe I'll vote for him. No, that's not how it works. It's just people who are really clued in to the back and forth are going to be like, yes, nailed it, you got the Podesta thing, you got the WikiLeaks thing. But the average person just sees, what's this guy rambling about? I care about jobs, I care about healthcare, I care about education, I care about what's happening overseas. So, like, some people did care about the whole Russia situation and the no-fly zone thing. But when he starts rambling about WikiLeaks and stuff, he's actually losing a lot of the audience. A lot of the people aren't paying attention. They don't actually know what the fuck he's talking about. It's not a victory for you. People who don't seem to understand how presidential politics works look at that and say, yeah, Trump's got her reeling. Whereas actually, he's just in the weeds. No one gives a fuck. He has to make it palatable. He has to make it a message that he can put out there to the people so that people can understand, okay, Podesta was coordinating with the media to get favorable attention, and that destroys the integrity of this whole conversation and, you know, pushing that home and explaining to people. But Trump just said, Podesta emails, blah, in passing. No one knows what the fuck he's talking about, and then Trump fans are like, nailed it.
You know, WikiLeaks just actually came out. John Podesta said some horrible things about you, and boy, was he right. He said some beauties. And, you know, Bernie Sanders, he said you have bad judgment. You do. And if you think that going into Mosul, after we let the world know we're going in, and all of the people that we really wanted, the leaders, they're all gone. If you think that was good, then you do. Now, John Podesta said you have terrible instincts. Bernie Sanders said you have bad judgment. I agree with both.
Well, you should ask Bernie Sanders who he's supporting for president, and he has said,
which is
as
a big
he has
mistake.
Campaigned for me around the country, you are the most dangerous person to run for president in the modern history of America. I think he's right.
Huh? What the hell's wrong with you? That's open hand slap, huh? You think it's fake? You talk like they'll fix his face? Huh? What do you mean?
No, you're not connected to reality. You're not paying attention to what actually is happening. That didn't really help him at all. That didn't do anything. Nobody cares. And that's why a lot of the people who said that Trump won that debate were only paying attention to the things that they wanted to hear. They were not thinking about the wider picture, which is how does this actually move him forward as a presidential candidate. And I would argue that many of the things that he said are kind of like red meat to people who are like, yeah, Trump, Trump, Trump. But that generally no one gives a shit, and it's not going to move the needle on anything. So none of that actually helped him. No, he's already shored up his base. But the problem is he's shedding support from a lot of places where he should be having support. One example of this is Fox News. Roger Ailes has said recently, or has indicated, that he's not on the Trump train. Now, this doesn't actually make any sense because Trump will cut Roger Ailes' taxes an amazing amount, and Roger Ailes will make so much money. Trump's economic policies are completely busted and broken. They don't make any sense at all. It's voodoo. It's garbage. If you actually read some analyses, for example, the Tax Policy Research Center, or a bunch of other places, this wiki page which summarizes the fucking smoking dumpster fire disaster, which is his economic plans, and how it's going to lead to decline in basically every single possible area. Besides that, the decreased economic activity from the disastrous Trump economic plan, Ailes would gain a lot from Trump being president, and yet he's not on the Trump train. And that's like a captive audience. Fox News at this point should be like basically Donald Trump's media outlet.
Now, if I'm Trump, it's the same thing. Stop whining. Stop that, all right? And say, look, I got 3 things I want to say to you tonight. Bang, bang, bang. And this is why I'm going to...
It's rigged, it's rigged, it's rigged.
Okay. That's whining.
In your column this week saying you still cannot vote for Donald Trump. We're 2 weeks out now from the election. You say you cannot do it.
Who had better material? Hillary Clinton had better material there. I know it's, you accused me of playing to the crowd before.
She did.
Now I'm taking this crowd on.
You're supposed to tell jokes. Like, Hillary hates Catholics is not a joke.
Yeah. Ridiculously suggesting that Chris Wallace may have been given the debate, the answer to it.
And that's kind of what I was getting at. It's just unclear. And if he was smarter about it, at least we'd know what we were dealing with.
I can guarantee you that Chris Wallace didn't hand over the questions to anybody last night, let alone the Hillary Clinton campaign. And by conflating the possibility that she got some help during the primary process against Bernie Sanders and Martin O'Malley, putting this tweet out the morning after the presidential debate that Chris Wallace moderated, again, conspiracy theory, Stephen.
Yeah, it is.
They should be like the Trump channel. That's what Fox should be. But he's lost everyone on Fox, mostly, except Sean Hannity. How pathetic is that? And Sean Hannity is the most dyed-in-the-wool, right down the line, ideologue, right-wing conservative, and he's just going to go with whoever is the nominee, because that's just who he is. All he could ever do would be go with the conservative nominee for president, because that's Sean Hannity. But he's losing everybody else. He's even lost fucking Glenn Beck, but yeah, who cares about him? And I got in a conversation today with a Trump supporter about this, and he said, well, the thing about Trump is that he challenges the power structure. He challenges the neocons, and they feel at risk from him because he's going to change the way things are done in Washington. He represents an external threat to the power structure, blah, 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 blah. No, that's not what's happening. That's actually not what's happening. That's the fantasy version, or what would sound like is happening if you don't understand presidential politics. What's actually happening is that he sucks at campaigning. He sucks at trying to appeal to people as a president. What he comes off like is an idiot, a clown, a bully, a moron. He goes out of his way to do things like lambast Megyn Kelly from Fox News, even though that's going to alienate Fox News from him, and he does such things over and over and over again, and he just flies off the handle. He's not self-controlled. He can't control his messaging. He's all over the fucking place. And that appeals to people who are like, yeah, I want to be edgy, I want to be badass. And maybe the alt-right, like, yeah, I'm young and this is cool. And yeah, it's trendy to be this hardcore conservative who doesn't give a fuck. But to the average person, to the general electorate, and even to fucking hardcore right-wingers, like Roger Ailes and Fox News, this is a smoking disaster pit of doom. And it's so shit. We can't even support this guy who gives us massive tax cuts because he's that shit. And that's the problem. He sucks as a presidential candidate. You've got to get out of your fantasy world. You've got to get out of this delusion that it's all about this nuanced thing about him fighting the power and him being against the established power structure. It's about immigration and it's about all of these different policies that he says he's going to... No, it's that he sucks. It's that he's a joke. That's what's going on. He's alienating people because he can't appeal to people. Because when the rest of the world sees him, they see a child. They see a child. And when they see him on the debate stage, they see an idiot flailing around who can barely talk in whole sentences. You're going to have a nasty shock on November 8th when he gets destroyed. And then everybody's going to turn around and cry, "It's rigged! It's a rigged election!" Whereas Occam's razor actually explains this. He sucks at running for president. He's incompetent. He's not likable. He's not appealing. He comes off like a douchebag. He can't answer questions properly. He never takes responsibility for any of his actions. He's incapable of seeming humble. He comes off like a dictator. And all this shit about you talking about all these little nuances and things going on in the Middle East, this policy and that policy there, and no one cares. They just think he's shit. So that's the reality that you're going to have to come to terms with. Stop trying to justify the fact that he's incompetent. And then people will get onto Hillary Clinton and be like, well, but Hillary Clinton is shit. Yeah, she's shit. Sure, I don't like Hillary Clinton. I think she's shit. But she's good at this. She's good at being a politician. She's good at going into a debate and knowing what polls well. She knows that when Donald Trump talks about not paying taxes, people are not going to like that and they're going to think he's a piece of shit. But he falls into that trap every single time. And then the right-wingers and the conservatives and the Trump fans and the alt-right, they come along and they are in their fantasy world making their stupid excuses every single time. Like, it's rigged, or, oh, the neocons don't like the fact he's going to change the power structure, even though he's going to have a guy from Goldman Sachs be his Treasury Secretary. Yeah, oh, what an outsider. And he's got all of these hedge fund managers, and Newt Gingrich is going to be in his administration in all likelihood. What an outsider. No, it's nothing to do with any of that. And then, oh, but the immigration, he's going to stop the Muslims. How the fuck do you even know he's going to do what he's going to say? He has never stood by anything that he's ever really said he was going to do. He just keeps changing his mind about everything. He can change his mind about the good things or the bad things. I think if Donald Trump gets into power, he's a wild card. No one really knows what the fuck he's going to do. So you're going to hitch your wagon to the possibility that he's going to not be full of shit for once, even though he has his whole fucking life. You're living in a dream world. I don't know how you got pulled into this Donald Trump thing. It's like brainwashing. It literally, seriously, it's like you're brainwashed. Wake the fuck up. The reason things are going bad for Trump, even though you can't admit it, is that he sucks at running for president. He's not an appealing candidate. He's a piece of shit. And he's a liar. And he's probably not going to do all of the good shit that you think he's going to do anyways. And when you sit around defending Trump and talking about how he's going to fight the power structure, even though it's full of insiders, he's just going to cut taxes, and there's very little indication that his protectionism ideas will even work, you look like a moron. You look like a muppet. And we're just all sitting around trying to be like, I gotta be polite. When they say that Trump won that debate, just... shh, don't say it. When they say, oh, he's really going to just do incredible things with immigration, like, oh, don't talk about it, it's full of shit. Their fantastical thinking is so out there now that I even said to someone, the question to Hillary about the no-fly zone was not well asked, because Chris Wallace asked her if she would shoot down a Russian plane.
So the question I have is, if you impose a no-fly zone, first of all, how do you respond to their concerns? Secondly, if you impose a no-fly zone and a Russian plane violates that, does President Clinton shoot that plane down?
Well, Chris, first of all...
She waffled on, and she didn't answer whether she'd shoot down the Russian plane. And upon rewatching, I was like, holy shit, that's a really big question to just skip by. Chris Wallace seriously should have said, would you shoot down the plane? That's what I asked, and you didn't answer that. That's a big deal. He should have asked that. And the person I was talking to said, well, the reason he didn't ask that was because of Podesta, and he's being, Chris Wallace is a registered Democrat, and he's being manipulated, and we can all see it in the Podesta emails, and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, seriously, do you have to make everything conspiratorial? I think that he was just running out of time, and he didn't follow up, and he was a little bit flustered, and he wasn't really paying attention.
Mr. Trump, Secretary Clinton, no, we need to move on to our final segment, and that is...
Or maybe he was being manipulated by the evil Hillary machine. I just know that he should have followed up on that. But it seems like these emails and these ideas are becoming like a catch-all excuse for just everything. And this person also said, I think Trump's going to lose because of the way the electoral map is laid out, and they're going to be gerrymandering districts and blah, 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 and just off in a fantasy world again. No. It's because he's a terrible candidate. He's not popular, he's going to lose. And then I look at all the polling, all of the polls are against him. And then, again, no, these polls just talk to Democrats, you know. They just talk to the Democrats, and Republicans are underrepresented. All right, well, how about this? Gallup 2016 poll. Oh, but that only talks to Democrats or Republicans. Gallup accuracy record in presidential elections. You can see how much they deviate from the reality. So in 2012, they were off about Obama by 2%, off about Romney by 3%. In 2008, off about Obama by 2%, off about McCain by 2%. In 2004, off by 1.7% on Bush, 0.7% on Kerry. 2000, off by 0.1% on Bush, 2.4% on Gore, etc., etc. You go back all the way to 1936. Roosevelt and Landon, they've got a 6.8% discrepancy, and that's the largest error margin that they've had ever since Gallup kept polls. And now you see Trump is 11 points behind. He's almost outside the margin, or he probably is outside the margin of error. So that would indicate that he's fucked, and it doesn't really matter whether they've talked to Democrats or Republicans, because we've got the entire record going back to 1936. Wake up! Things are looking bad for Donald Trump. You can't admit why. You're going to make excuses as to why he gets destroyed. But I just wish people would start looking at the simple realities of campaigns like this and stop waffling on about all the little details that they think actually matter. Just take a look at the wider politics of the situation, and the simple fact is Trump is a joke, and that's what's happening. One other point, Trump said, "These are the people who throw gays off buildings," and then Hillary laughed.
So these are people that push gays off buildings. These are people that kill women and treat women horribly.
Oh, I guess she thinks throwing gays off buildings are funny. Ha ha ha. I think any neutral observer would say she clearly wasn't laughing at gays being thrown off buildings. She was laughing that he was bringing it up because this guy is full of shit. And he's even said that Saudi Arabia should be allowed to have nuclear weapons.
We're better off, frankly, if South Korea is going to start to protect itself.
Saudi Arabia, nuclear weapons?
Saudi Arabia, absolutely.
You would be fine with them having nuclear weapons?
No, not nuclear weapons,
okay.
but they have to protect themselves.
But if you say to Japan, yes, it's fine, you get nuclear weapons, South Korea, you as well, and Saudi Arabia says we want them too.
Can I be honest with you? It's going to happen anyway. It's going to happen anyway. It's only a question of time.
And that would be fine by him, and he's had businesses that do dealings with Saudi Arabia. He was just doing fear-mongering. She was laughing at that. She was laughing at the fact that he's a clown. She was like, huh. This guy, he will sink to any lows. He doesn't even want gay marriage to be legal, and he doesn't want equality for gay people domestically in the US. Now he's the guy talking about throwing gays off buildings. I would probably laugh too. Look at this guy who's just using these disgusting crimes for his own political gains. And that's a joke. And I also think she's also thinking the gall of this fuckface. But whatever. If you just want to see things with rose-tinted glasses because it makes you feel like Trump might win, and then you'll feel better about your life, and then you can complain about everything being rigged. And why weren't they talking about Hillary laughing at the gays? Good luck with that, because you are losing not only this election, but your alignment with reality.